When I think of affordable meals, my mind instantly turns to a fragrant bowl of dal. In this video, I'll be sharing a delicious budget-friendly dal with a curried tofu crumble for an extra protein boost. Not only that, but I'll also show you a really easy 2-ingredient brown flatbread to go alongside. Although this meal is budget friendly, it's not low in nutrients. We've got 40 grams of protein per portion, 12 grams of fiber, and plenty of micronutrients. Oh, and by the way, my name is George. I've been a chef for 10 years, so I'll show you some chefy cooking tips throughout the video. So let's get cooking. To start this fragrant dal, heat up a splash of oil in a heavy base saucepan, then add a couple teaspoons of mustard seeds. I love adding whole spices for little bursts of extra flavor. Before starting any veg prep, I always secure the chopping board with some wet kitchen roll or a tea towel, just to stop it from sliding around while you're chopping. I also like to have a container for vegetable offcuts and some spoons ready for tasting the food while I'm cooking. For the red onion, keep the root on and we'll just use our knuckle to guide the knife when cutting down the onion, making sure not to go through the root as that is holding the onion together. For a finer dice, you can cut horizontally across the onion, but in this case, I just wanted a rough chop. Next, for the courgette, I'm going to cut it into small cubes about 1 centimeter cubed. This will add some extra texture to the dal. Or if you're feeling lazy, then the grater is your friend here. But personally, I love to practice my knife skills whenever I have the opportunity. Add your courgette and red onion to the popping aromatic mustard seeds and stir to coat in the oil. We'll just cook them until slightly caramelized and translucent. You can use different onions if you want, such as shallot, white onions, or the white part of spring onions. When you're buying spices, most supermarkets will have a world foods aisle with bigger and cheaper bags of spices, like this bag of cumin I've got here, compared to the little ones that you usually get, like this one. However, spices do lose their potency over time, so if you're buying a spice that you use quite a lot, then you can get a big bag like this bag of cumin, or if it's a spice you use every now and again, then it's best to buy it in smaller portions but more often. Or even better, buy them whole and they'll keep fresher for longer, and then you can just grind them with a pestle and mortar or a spice grinder when and as you need them. I prepared the spices earlier by toasting a mix of coriander seeds, cumin seeds, and cardamom pods. Cardamom is one of my favourite spices, and not just because they look like tiny little alien eggs. They've got an incredibly delicious citrus, floral, and sweet flavour. I just lightly crush them to remove the shells, and then the seeds can be added to the pan to toast and release their oils. Toast your spices on a medium heat until you can smell the aromas and they go a light golden colour, and then remove them into a pestle and mortar or a spice grinder. Muddle or bash them until they're nicely ground. Don't worry about getting them into a really fine powder, and then we're just going to add them into the pan, followed by some ground turmeric for the golden colour and anti-inflammatory properties. Then a little asafoetida. This spice is great for aiding digestion and reducing bloating, so it's great paired with lentils or beans, which can be problematic for some people. Then add in your red lentils, which I've given a quick rinse, followed by the vegetable stock and the cashew milk. I made this by blending 50 grams of cashews with 350 ml of water for an alternative to coconut milk, which is quite high in saturated fat. Stir through and cook with the lid on for about 20 minutes, stirring every now and again. I'm then going to add some lemon juice to help lighten up the dal and bring out all the other flavours. I'm adding the tomatoes once the lentils are about 80% cooked, as they can slow down the cooking process of the lentils or even stop them from fully softening. In some cases this might be okay if you want to keep the lentils a little al dente, but in this dish we want them soft and creamy for a nice smooth dal. George, stop playing with your food. Fine. I'm using some frozen vegetables in this dish as they're cheap and they're just as or even more nutritious than fresh vegetables. As soon as fruit and vegetables are picked, they start to lose their nutrients, then they get transported, then they hang around in the shop, and then maybe even longer in your fridge. Whereas frozen veg is frozen shortly after being picked, retaining all their goodness. Freezing vegetables definitely can affect the texture. Some of my favorites though are peas, edamame, spinach. Peppers are quite good, especially when using them in a sauce. Whereas other ones like broccoli, courgette, I find go a bit mushy. So I thought I had frozen spinach, but it turns out I had some frozen chard, which is going to work just as well. You could also use some kale or some spring greens. Most importantly, taste your dal for seasoning. I added a touch of soy sauce for a little bit more depth of flavour. You could also use tamari if you're gluten free. And there is your creamy dal with beautiful fragrant spices, made a little bit lighter by using cashew milk instead of coconut cream. Now for the speedy 2-ingredient flatbreads, I'm combining self-raising wholemeal flour and a thick Greek-style vegan yogurt with just a pinch of salt. Okay, 3-ingredient flatbread. Start by mixing with a spoon or a spatula and then get your hands in there to bring it together. Get your dough onto a lightly floured worktop and give it a quick knead. Just 1 minute will do, pushing the dough away from you and then folding it back on top of itself a few times over. A dough scraper is a really helpful bit of kit here, just for keeping your chopping board nice and clean and bringing together the dough. I definitely recommend getting one if you don't have one already. Then just pop your dough into a bowl and we'll let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. Next, for the curried tofu crumbles, we're keeping it simple by using a pre-made curry powder. Then smoked paprika, garlic granules, corn flour to help crisp up the tofu, soy sauce, tomato puree, a good grind of black pepper, lemon juice, a splash of oil, and of course some salt because no one wants bland tofu. Simply whisk together and then crumble in your tofu. Tearing the tofu makes all these rough edges for the marinade to cling onto. This tofu was also previously frozen, so it will absorb the marinade even better, and all you need to do is just mix to coat. Personally, I think using your hands is always best for getting a good coverage of the marinade over the tofu, but feel free to use a wooden spoon if you'd rather not. You're welcome to air fry or roast this tofu for a more chewy texture, or I prefer frying it in some olive oil so that it's crispy on the outside and then slightly juicy in the middle. Spreading the tofu out across the pan will help ensure every bit gets some good colour, and then just turn it every couple of minutes. If you stir it too often though, the tofu won't have time to develop a good crust. Once it looks something like this, then you're good to go. Now to finish off the flatbreads, simply throw a little flour across your chopping board and then roll them out as thin as possible within reason. A little flour is fine, but don't overdo it or you'll have a very crusty, dry flatbread. I nearly always have rice with Indian food, but sometimes it's nice to switch it up and make your own flatbreads, especially on a weekend for example. Heat up a frying pan over a high heat. We're then going to wipe over just a little bit of oil, then add your flatbread and watch as the bubbles form underneath. Don't be afraid of getting the flatbread a little bit charred, this will add a lovely sort of barbecue vibe flavour to them. Then just wrap them in a clean tea towel. This is going to help stop them from drying out and keep them nice and flexible. Now all that's left to do is serve up. I really do love dal, it's great to warm up in winter, but also made this way with a thin cashew milk and some lemony floral spices. It's really delicious in summer. You could also serve a fresh cabbage slaw with it, that would be really nice. Also, be sure to get your favourite condiments, whether that's yogurts, lime pickle, or mango chutney. I actually have a really great recipe for mango chutney in my Indian meal prep video.
That's so good.
Really lovely creamy dal. You've got lovely aromatic spices coming through, and you've got a nice bit of freshness from the tomato, a bit more sort of body and chew from that tofu. Really delicious. Let's give that flatbread a quick go as well. The flatbread's lovely and earthy and moorish from that wholemeal flour, a little bit of tang from the yogurt, and it just pairs really nicely with the more sort of light dal we've got here. Definitely give this a go and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching today. If you'd like some more Indian inspired recipes, then check out this Indian meal prep that I did.